From circular saw-jaw type of fish to giant scorpions that seemed unreal, Titanoboa is one of the biggest and frightening creatures in all the history of the planet. These gigantic snakes used to live around 60 million years ago. They were incredibly long, very heavy, and they had a really frightening appearance. Although, I guess we can't say that it's the scariest creature ever, because throughout the history of the world, there were always lots of scary creatures out there. You're watching Infinity, and today we will tell you about those creatures that are much scarier than Titanoboa. Let's roll! HELICOPRION. HELICOPRION is a type of cartilaginous fish from the Permian period. These guys used to dwell on Earth about 290 million years ago. They lived about 230 million years before the Titanoboa. As you can see, HELICOPRION somewhat looks like a modern shark. That's exactly because these prehistoric monsters are cartilaginous. As you probably have already noticed, they have one very peculiar feature. I mean, look at its jaw. Look at its teeth. Those look nothing like those other ancient teeth of other marine dwellers. They call it the tooth spiral, and it's a very dangerous weapon. The lower jaw indeed looks like a modern circular saw. Titanoboa never had anything quite like that, and couldn't really boast about this sort of thing. So I guess in some sense it makes this thing more terrifying than the one giant prehistoric snake. Researchers who have studied the fossils of this remarkable fish believe that when a HELICOPRION bit something or someone, its teeth would start to rotate deep into their throat. So there are some similarities with the saw, which actually makes HELICOPRION one of the most dangerous and horrific looking creatures in the entire history of our planet. PULMONOSCORPIUS. Very few people like scorpions. Most of these arthropods look really creepy, and many of them are actually venomous, which makes them even more scary. But if you think about the prehistoric scorpions, believe me, modern ones are not scary at all in comparison. Meet PULMONOSCORPIUS, a giant scorpion that lived about 330 million years ago. Its remains were found in Scotland in 1994 by British paleontologist Andrew Jerome. PULMONOSCORPIUS looks almost like an ordinary scorpion. It has a sting on its tail and it's got claws. But there's still a difference between the two. For example, the size is radically different. While the length of large modern scorpions revolve around 20 centimeters, PULMONOSCORPIUS was almost 3 times bigger. By the way, the name of the creature literally means long scorpion. Scientists believe that the PULMONOSCORPIUS was a land animal and that it fed on small arthropods and tetrapods. They also mentioned that these guys had very large eyes, so their large size and dangerous, intimidating sting made them really creepy. I think if these were still alive till this day, they would probably frighten us in no way less than Titanoboa. GORGONOPSIA. One little glance at GORGONOPSIA and you understand that it was in fact much more frightening and dangerous than Titanoboa. GORGONOPSIA is a suborder of carnivorous therapsids. Some consider them to be very primitive monsters, but little people know that these monsters were actually among the dominant predators of the late Permian era. They lived on the territory of modern Africa, China, India, and Russia about 255 million years ago. They are mostly known for their large backward curved canines in the upper jaw and somewhat smaller but also quite powerful canines in the lower jaw. This dental structure allowed them to capture their victims even if they missed and their teeth slid over the victim's skin. In this case, the lower teeth of the GORGONOPSIA clung to their victim's skin, pulled them into the mouth, and clamped them into a sort of firm dental lock. And after that, GORGONOPSIA could either dump their prey or tear off quite a large piece of skin from it, and then chase the wounded animal. It seems like GORGONOPSIA were not only scary, but also very fierce and cruel ancient creatures. But it's not like they were unique, because the prehistoric world was swarming with all kinds of monsters. Anyway, stay tuned and watch this video till the end to see giant dragonflies, huge bears that were much larger than the bears we know, and of course we'll also talk about the legendary Loch Ness Monster. Don't go away. MEGANEUROPSIS. Do you like insects? Do you like dragonflies? Dragonflies, we know, are pretty cute kind of creatures. And this is the feeling many people get when they see MEGANEUROPSIS. MEGANEUROPSIS is a dragonfly, but it's prehistoric and it's huge. To be more precise, it's a genus of gigantic insects of the early Permian period. The remains were found in the United States. Their genus was first described in 1933 by American paleontology professor Frank Carpenter. The body length of these ancient monsters reached 43 centimeters, and their wingspan reached 71. That is one big dragonfly. Scientists say that Meganeuropsis were among some of the largest species of insects in history. The remains confirm that Meganeuropsis existed from the late Carboniferous to the late Permian period, which is approximately 370 to 247 million years ago. All this is very interesting, but the question is, how on earth did they ever manage to grow so big? Researchers believe that it all boils down to their tracheal tubular system. Meganeuropsis received a lot of oxygen from the air, and over the course of evolution they got a lot bigger until they finally turned into those gigantic monsters of their time. Not many people like big flying insects, and a lot of people probably would not be delighted to see giant Meganeuropsis flying over their heads, preferring the quiet company of Titanoboa, which by the way fed solely on fish. Short-faced bear. It feels like a long time ago, in ancient times, animals were generally larger than their modern relatives. This rule also applies to bears. Ancient bears were much bigger than the bears we're used to seeing. Like giant short-faced bears is a good example. It's an extinct species of bear that lived in North America at the end of the Pliocene period. According to some research, this huge monster is the largest representative of the bear family. Also, giant short-faced bear was one of the largest predators of the entire Ice Age. Their height could reach 3.5 meters. Compare them to a modern polar bear, who rarely exceeded 2.5, and you'll get the idea. Ancient bears weighed about 600 kilos, but the mass of the largest individuals could even reach up to 1.5 tons. Short-faced bears did have short faces. That's how they got their name. But these guys had many other features that distinguished them from other members of the family. The short-faced bear had the jaws that were very well adapted to their diet and lifestyle. Their fangs were very big and sharp, and they were pointed in different directions. Along with very strong jaw muscles, they allowed these ancient monsters to make powerful, deadly bites. We know for sure that the giant short-faced bear was one of the main enemies of the first people, even though they were normally interested in much larger prey because they were so big. Anyways, this bear caused a lot of trouble for our ancestors. CARNOTAURUS. Should you expect a warm company from something that is translated from Latin as carnivorous bull? This is what scientists call Carnotaurus, a type of ancient carnivorous dinosaur. To my thinking, Carnotaurus was much more intimidating than Titanoboa. The length of the only known specimen reached from 7.5 to 9 meters. And although Carnotaurus were somewhat shorter, they were actually heavier than Titanoboa. According to various sources, the weight of these lizards ranged from 1.5 to 2.1 tons. Carnotaurus had very short and tall skull with two horn-like flattened outgrowth above their eyes. Their hind limbs were quite long and slender, and their forelimbs were really small, smaller than those of Tyrannosaur. Carnotaurus had a lot of small teeth, which, despite their size, did an excellent job cutting flesh. Thanks to their pointy teeth and the special anatomy of their skull, Carnotaurus could swallow large pieces of meat very easily. Researchers know that their bite was quick, but not too strong. However, this did not prevent the creepy prehistoric lizards from actively absorbing their victims. MOSASAURUS. When we tackle the subject of prehistoric sea monsters, the first thing that comes to mind to most people is Megalodon. These giant and creepy sharks reached 15 meters in length, weighed over 30 tons, and had very strange sharp teeth and were extremely aggressive. In modern popular culture, the image of Megalodon has become so vivid that it is difficult for us to imagine that there could be other equally or maybe even more dangerous predators, but there certainly were. One of those was the famous Mosasaurus. Mosasaurus is a genus of extinct reptiles from the Mosasaur family. They reached about 70 meters in length, which made them one of the largest marine species of their time. The Mosasaurus's head was similar to that of a crocodile. It was armed with hundreds of razor-sharp teeth that could finish off even some of the most heavily protected specimens. We should also say that despite their large size, Mosasaurus was kind of fast and mobile sort of predator. They moved swiftly underwater, mostly due to the sharp and aerodynamic features of their head. If Mosasaurus lived during the same period with Titanoboa, the latter will probably struggle quite a bit. And that's all for now. Hopefully you enjoyed watching this video. Don't forget to press the like button, subscribe to Infinity, and we'll see you later.